Hello and welcome back to the NFL side of the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. We've neglected things a little bit, but with the season approaching, we are now going to step things up regards to the NFL side of things. It will be more of a betting podcast rather than fantasy, but both things that will be integrated. So welcome back. My name's Luke Elder and joined by the Jonathan Owens to myself, Simone Biles, Tom Collins.
You're calling yourself Simone Biles?
Correct.
Simone Biles, as you were telling me off air that you thought her last name was pronounced.
No, right. Used to. Like, when she first came around and she was like some superstar gymnast, it still is, but she blew up on the scene. I was like, oh, Simone Biles. What a nice name. Simone Biles. Like, if your name was Biles, right, you would go, yeah, Biles.
Well, I would if I was French. I think that would be the only reason. She doesn't have an accent on the E, so how can it be Biles?
I just would. It'd be like you, like Tom Collins, Tom Collin.
No, but that would sound awful.
Tell me that doesn't sound better. Tell me that doesn't sound better.
Yeah, it sounds better until you hear me, and then I just sound like this middle-class white man from England and not a French geezer. So, it wouldn't be for me, that.
Try the accent. I'm just saying.
The accent. Let's move on.
Pre-season is not far away. We've got news coming through from training camp for the first time in a little while. This show, we're going to focus on our teams, which, if you haven't noticed, Seattle and Tom is Green Bay. So it's a predict your team episode. We want everyone in the comments to predict something that's going to happen with your team down below, whoever they may well be. But I'm going to be giving... wow. That failed. I'm going to be giving Seattle predictions. Tom's going to be giving Green Bay predictions. Are you optimistic about the Green Bay season?
Relatively. Much more than there was last year, that's for sure. Last year, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers out of the picture, it was our first year where it looked like we were probably going to struggle, but we didn't. So given that kind of experience where Jordan Love seems to be able to control the offense, more about him later in the podcast, I am relatively optimistic. Our division is tough, though. We have got the Lions in there. The Bears could be good this year. We don't really know. Vikings won't win. But hopefully we can make the playoffs and go close. But I'll talk more about my positivity and negativity moving forward.
I mean, I think our division is harder than yours, but fine. We've got San Francisco, LA, and also Arizona, who are going to be good this year. So good time to be a Seahawks fan. But we're changing. We will dive in with... the first ones. Who wants to go first, me or you?
You go first.
Okay, I think I'm going to be able to talk you into some of these as well.
Go on.
Because I think some of the lines are wrong. I've focused on 3 players. We did a players to draft and a players to avoid episode a little while ago. You can catch that on our YouTube page or Spotify, wherever you're listening to this. JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba, is a player that I liked back... start of last year. Obviously, he's a first-round pick for Seattle. He was used atrociously last year. His ADOT was one of the lowest in the leagues for a main receiver, or one of the main receivers on a team. He posted 628 yards receiving last term. This year, new coaching staff have come in. They've already been singing the praises. Again, he's got hype from camp once more. His line is 725.5 yards. Now, factor in last year, he was getting so many passes thrown to him, literally at the line of scrimmage and behind it. He just had no chance to be a real serviceable receiver. And he wasn't really used either. Pete Carroll's MO, he never liked fully incorporating rookies into a team straight away. He sort of put JSN on the back burner. We saw later on in the year, he had a very good game against Dallas. He had that brilliant game-winning catch against Philadelphia. We know that JSN is a very good player. Ryan Grubb, he's the offensive coordinator that's come in. He likes to utilize his slot guy. That will more than likely be JSN. I think the over on 725.5 yards, which is 10 to 11, not a massive price, but I think JSN is going to eclipse that quite easily.
I'm not dead against it. Obviously, we've seen in previous podcasts that I love DK Metcalf this year, which kind of plays against JSN a little bit if I think DK is going to get a huge target share. But the line's relatively low for JSN, isn't it? So I'm not against it.
2 more players. I think I'm going to be able to talk you into both of these, but I'm going to leave one of them till last because your first response will be, oh, what idiot, typical Seahawks fan. But there's some knowledge to it. Ken Walker is next. How good do you think Ken Walker is as a running back?
On a scale of 1 to 10, um,
As
10 being
actual ability alone.
a good 7.5. He's strong. He gets yards after tackle. He's relatively good in the league.
I know I'm a little biased, but I watch more Seahawks games than most other people. I think he's legitimately got strong potential as a top 5 back in the league. He is a very, very talented player. Now, we had the ahhing last year about, is Zach Charbonnet going to come in and take some of his carries? And to an extent he did, but very, very minimal. We saw Zach Charbonnet have a go when Ken Walker was injured. Obviously, there were 2 very tough games. I think it was San Francisco and Dallas, so tough games for a running back anyway. But in 2022, Ken Walker had 1,050 yards rushing with 228 attempts. 2023, last year, he had 905 of 219 attempts. So his attempts, they didn't really go down that much. He also missed 2 games. He missed most of a game, I think, against LA with an injury that caused him to miss 2 games. And then we got absolutely blown to smithereens by Baltimore. And he was just completely useless in that game and wasn't needed. He had 4 other games as well with 9 carries or less. He will be the back in Seattle. So 905 yards last year, 1,050 yards in his rookie season. What's the line this year for Ken Walker?
950.
875 and a half.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, that is ridiculously low. I think bookmakers in the UK have taken the line that Seattle just aren't going to be very good. And that might be the case. We're probably going to be 4th in our division, but we're still going to be serviceable. We've got some good players, and I think there's a lot of overreactions. The biggest overreaction, though, is to Geno Smith.
No, okay. No, I don't care what you're going to say.
I'm going to work you around on this one. Geno Smith, last year, Seattle, 32 teams in the league. Do you know that?
I do know that, yeah.
Yeah, crazy, right? Loads of them. Do you know who the slowest pace of play was on offense? What team it was?
Is this you trying to make me say Seattle?
Correct, it's Seattle. The slowest pace of play. They were barely on the field. In 2022, Geno had his breakout year, and he earned his contract, and he was very good when everyone expected him to be absolute rubbish, effectively. 4,282 yards. Last year in 2023, he wasn't as good. The offense wasn't as good. I don't think the team was very well coached, full stop. But he still managed to get to 3,624 yards. Not as impressive, but he missed 2 games. He wasn't needed in a Giants game, and he got hurt in that as well. His line this year is a bizarre one. 3,450 and a half yards. That's even money. That is 200-ish, a little under 200, below what he achieved last year. And that's with missing time. He should be in a better offense this year. Last year as well, right at the start of the year, we lost 2 of our tackles. We lost Charles Cross first game, and we lost Abe Lucas in the first game as well. They both missed extensive time throughout the course of the season. He wasn't as well protected. You could see that in his play. I don't see how, unless he gets injured again, but again, you can't factor that into bets. I don't see how Geno Smith won't go over, we'll call it 3,500, but 3,450, that is ridiculously low for him.
I will leave my opinion to the side. I do think you can find some good value in bets like this, though, where you're looking at the player props for passing yards in a year with quarterbacks, because most of the lines seem very low. And actually, this links in really nicely with my first prediction for the Packers. So I think I should probably just go in and keep the link. My first prediction with the Packers this year regards to quarterback Jordan Love. And I, like many others in the league and Packers fans in general, doubted the picking of Love when we chose him in the draft. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers hated it. And there was a big story about how we've suddenly gone for Love high up in the draft when we have one of the best, if not the best QBs in the league at the time. Now, he sat behind Aaron Rodgers for a couple of seasons before Aaron then left to the Jets, and Jordan Love became our starter last year. And he had a breakout season in 2023. It was far better than I anticipated, and I imagine the majority of the NFL watchers and viewers and public anticipated as well. He overachieved. He threw for 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, which is a good ratio, leading the team to 9 wins along the way, and tallying 4,159 passing yards throughout the regular season. Obviously increased on that in the postseason, but that doesn't count. Now, given the whole offense last year was in its infancy, including all of the wide receivers, we basically didn't have a veteran out there apart from can't remember who it was, but we had one.
Christian Watson was one of the oldest guys, I'd say.
Yeah, well, he doesn't count as a vet. Surely he was only in his second year.
I mean, compared to the other guys you had.
Yeah, it's true. Jaden Reed. We had plenty of depth as well with rookies. So, given the whole wide receiving core was in its infancy, obviously we had Aaron Jones. So we had a good running back who was phenomenal in the passing game as well. And he's now moved on to pastures new, which means that AJ Dillon becomes our lead back and he's more run heavy. But nevertheless, Jordan Love still has lots of options out there to throw to. Now, I thought his line this year would be around 4,000, considering he had 4,159 passing yards in his rookie season. Obviously he wasn't a rookie, but first season leading the team. Yet the line is set at 3,800.5 yards, which I think is way too low. That's a full 359 yards lower than he tallied last year, which was obviously throughout the whole season. Now, obviously, as you've already touched on, injuries should not be counted as part of a betting play. We don't know whether he's going to get injured, so how can you make a judgment on that? Providing he plays every single regular season game this year, surely he topples 3,800.5 passing yards. I think he's a great bet at around 10 to 11 for this wager. What do you think?
He should do. He should do. I mean, your team last year should not have made the playoffs, but it was good. It was very well coached. Your receivers really stepped up. I think having Christian Watson possibly healthy for the first time ever is going to be a big help. He's gone through this thing where he realized that some of that length or the flexibility in his hamstrings, that the balance was off or something like that. That's why his hamstrings kept on getting injured, and that was his problem. He's fixed that. They're not, I don't think 100% level now, but they're a lot closer. They were like 20% off or something like that. So if Christian Watson can stay on the field, I think Jordan Love is such a better quarterback when Christian Watson's there. Not because Christian Watson is some standout amazing receiver. I think he's very good, but he also gives so much more depth to the actual field of the Green Bay Packers. The one thing I will say, you mentioned AJ Dillon's your lead back. Josh Jacobs is there.
Yeah, well, okay, both of them.
albeit, when this trade came through, Tom was raging about this. And Aaron Jones has gone to Minnesota, which is just wonderful.
Yeah, I'm not a Josh Jacobs fan, to be honest. I prefer if AJ led the backfield, but we'll find out what happens. Yeah, we got Marshall. Go on.
Have you seen AJ Dillon play football?
I have, yeah. He's an absolute brute. But we have a rookie, Marshawn Lloyd, who we've obviously just got in the draft, who provides that third down back kind of potential. So I feel like AJ and Lloyd would have been fine together. But anyway, we went and got Josh Jacobs. Hopefully I come back and eat my words and he has a fantastic year, but I don't see it.
Next bet, Josh Jacobs unders.
Well, it's not that, but it could be that. My last prediction, I've only got 2 here rather than Luke's 3. I want to caveat this by saying predicting your team's season can easily come with a bit of bias. Cough, cough. But I'm going to try and keep neutral because, sentimentality and bias shouldn't really come near.
Packers to win the Super Bowl, baby!
I have actually had a small wager on the Super Bowl just as a saver. Anyway, my negative prediction for the Packers this year is that I expect us to finish second in our division behind the Detroit Lions, just because the Lions look too strong on offense. Even if they progress a little bit from last season or they stay the same, I think they'll win the division. Their strength of schedule is pretty easy as well. I mean, if you look at their non-divisional road games this year, they go to Dallas, they go to San Fran, but the rest all look pretty winnable for them. And obviously in the division, they're going to be the strongest team. So you'd anticipate they'd win the majority of the 6 divisional games. Therefore, I think that Detroit will pip the Packers to the divisional title. Now, obviously linking that to a bet, I think Detroit at 11-8 to win the NFC North is pretty fair. I'd have them actually odds on, maybe 10-11. So there is value there. And albeit I would love the Packers to win the NFC North, I just don't feel like it's going to happen this year. So I've already given one positive Packers bet, which is Jordan Love overs in the passing yards. Now I'll go the negative, Detroit to win the NFC North.
Could I interest you in going just that little bit further?
Go on.
Because I'm assuming you saying this, you go Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago, Minnesota.
Correct.
6-1 for that exact order.
Yeah, see, that is a type of bet that I would be interested in for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because Minnesota are quite clearly the worst team in the league coming into the season at the moment. They have some elite players, but the depth isn't there. Chicago are kind of a question mark, which is why I guess this is 6-1, because we don't necessarily know how good they will be with Caleb Williams. But they could be great. They could be poor. I think they'll be middling. So they should finish third. And then obviously Detroit and Packers are the proven teams.
Yeah, that's fair. My favorite bet, and we're going way off topic in this because none of our teams favorite bet in that sort of market in the AFC West, Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos. That's 3-1 currently. But the Chiefs will win it. The Chargers will win games. The Raiders are better than the Broncos, who are led by Bo Nix, and they're very rookie heavy. I think 3-1 is a fantastic price.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I think the only question is the Chargers and how well they'll adapt to a run-heavy game. But apart from that, I see no negative there.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we got off topic on that part, but thank you for rejoining us for the Turf and Touchdowns NFL episode. We are back on this front. We'll be trying to upload very soon, every single week on this part. But like I say, and have mentioned the horse racing podcast, we have got a little bit in the pipeline and a few plans that we are going to be bringing in over the next few weeks. But thank you very much for listening. We'll be back either next week or in a couple of weeks' time. Do follow us on our socials at Turf Touchdowns on Twitter to keep up to date, and at Turf and Touchdowns everywhere else. And also remember to subscribe and leave comments with your team's prediction for the year. From myself and Tom, until we next get to speak to you guys, stay safe, look after another. Goodbye.